Welcome to Declarative and Procedural Processing Instructional Tips for this particular section. This is one of the shorter sections, but very important. We talk about the ability to automatically calculate values on the client side. We handle that particular functionality by using what we call declarative processing. Procedural processing would be if I entered information, hit the submit, I had to post to the server, and then the calculation comes back and it updates. Declarative processing basically is the concept of implementing an event listener. We're watching particular properties that when a value changes and they're part of the expression, automatically recalculate so that I can update the target. That's a declarative process. Now we have 6 declarative rules, but in this particular module, we only talk about the declared expression on a property and the concept of forward chaining and backwards chaining. Here's an example of the declared expression. Remember, when I say declared expression, here's a calculation, which is the expression, and here's my target property. And we have what's called a declarative network, which is similar to event listeners. The system is watching for a change in either the quantity or the price. We call those source properties. If either source property changes, the system, because it's watching it, it's aware of it in the declarative network, it will automatically recalculate the expression and update the target property. That's considered a declarative property, more specifically, how the declared expression works. All declarative properties or all declarative rules are system listeners, or they have the system listening for an event to happen. How do I even get to a declared expression? Well, I have to create one. We'll show you an example of my line total. It is a declared expression, and then I have to actually have the actual total. That's a declared expression. So I can go to the rule itself, create a declared expression rule for a particular property, not go into the property rule, but go into decisions and declare expression. Create a declared expression for a particular property. The property is the configured value. Or I can go to configure view. When I add a field, I can say it's a calculated field. That calculated field is a declarative expression. Again, it's added to my declarative network. In other languages, it would be part of the event model. So now the system is listening for something to happen. When that something happens, the target property is modified. Okay, so let's take a look at the declared expression. I've gone to the Dev Studio, App Explorer, decision category, declare expression rule type. Service total is in my data model that I can utilize. And so I come here and I see that I want the sum, my service total of all of my lines. So open and close parentheses, the way I do that, all of the entire array. And if I want to test it, can run it before I even implement it in my code. At least I think I can. I had done it earlier. Here we go. So it's part of the declarative network, so it understands the expression and it understands this is the target. So these are my lines. Remember I said service open close parentheses now line total. Anytime my line total changes, I will update my service total. So if I put 50 here for that particular line, update, updates the total. If I put quantity of 5, update. Right. So now that's 500. So I'll update that. Now it's 550. So that lets you see how I can test a target property as part of my declarative network. If I run it, see how it works. Save and run. Here's the array. So now if I change the quantity to 7, now watch the line total automatically update and watch the service total automatically update also. I want 77 of those. Watch how it changes the total. That's a declarative expression. It updates not only the line total, but when the line total changes, it updates the service total. We have two concepts, forward chaining, backwards chaining. What you just saw in my example is forward chaining, which means what? If my source properties are modified and my target property is updated, then we call that forward chaining. Well, what else could exist? We have something called backwards chaining. The best example I can give you is, let's say that you're on a shopping cart. On one page, you have your items you purchase, quantity, the amount, the line items, and then it gives you all of that and it's forward chaining. But for some reason, we make a decision from a design perspective that we don't give you the total. In order for you to see the total, which takes you over to the next page with your credit card information, then it takes you to the next page, shows you the total, asks you for credit card information. Well, in Pega, since you've gone to a different user view and you're no longer in the context of that prior information of your source properties, now you need a total that will be updated or the target to be updated, but there are no source fields. So how do you do it? It's called backwards chaining. So we pull values from the source properties on the prior screens or on the prior processes. And when I do that, then I automatically update the source one time. Now, backwards chaining is more efficient. It only happens one time when I get to that page. If I put the total on the same page or user view where all my line items are, it gets updated every time. It is not as efficient. You saw a screen where we only had 10 items. What if it was a government agency? They're building a ship or they're building a airplane or a jet for military purposes, and it has thousands of lines of items. You don't want to do forward chaining because every time you change one line item, it recalculates everything and it recalculates the total. What you want to do is make it backwards chaining to make the change at the end. Backwards chaining, we have options, 3 different options we can utilize. Now, I'll tell you all of this, but what's interesting, when we move to version 8.4, they hide the whole concept of forward chaining and backwards chaining. So again, our product gets better. We move you to levels of abstraction to where it's smart enough to figure out which one to do, and you don't even have to worry about it anymore. So when you look at chaining, consider how properties are being used. Forward chaining can slow the system down. Backwards chaining may avoid unnecessary updates and could improve response time. But if you think about it, in most cases, almost everybody will do forward chaining because we don't have thousands of line items. How do I navigate to a declare expression? Dev Studio, you have to go to the class, to the decision, declare expression rule type, and then you get to the instance. Here, if I need to get to the declarative network, I can go to configure, case management, business rule, declarative network. I can see all of my properties that's part of the declarative network. When do I use chaining? Forward chaining can be used if I need to update a total, limited amount of line items. Backwards chaining, when I want to alleviate a performance bottleneck, I have several lines to calculate, and I only want to do it once. So the implementation I showed you, I ran this. There was a change in the source property, updated the line item. The line item was a source property for the service total. So the skill from chaining, you should make sure your students understand what is a declare expression. It's one of the 6 declarative rules that we have. It's part of the declarative network, which is akin to a event listening model. And we have forward chaining and backwards chaining. But in 8.4, it becomes obscure and it goes away. So that ends our session on calculating case values.